Good evening, good evening, good evening. Episode 32, COVIDcast. Wow, the journey continues. So tonight, my usual partner in crime and the premier anchor of this program, Rochelle Cameron, is not going to be with us. And she, with her gentle permission, she has asked me to take over in her stead. Sometimes you need a break, you know. Why, with everything that waited. So there it is. So we're going to proceed talking more about living with COVID. Last week, we had a particularly important program around creating the baseline. The reason PSOJ decided to do a show on COVID on our business program is that we found that there was so much information from abroad, from here, etc., that people were not exactly sure what were, in the end of the day, the final set of recommendations and stuff of how we're going to live with COVID. So we wanted to do what is create a baseline. And there's a bunch of stuff, to be honest with you. I learned, lots of people learned. Like, for example, the whole thing, if you're on a bus or an airplane where it's very difficult to physically distance, sometimes it's good to wear 2 masks because that can help give a little extra protection. We learned some other things about the meds that you must have at home. In fact, I'm just going to show you some slides from last week so that we re-anchor ourselves in this issue about COVID. All right, so what happens if you do actually get COVID at home? And maybe you should just keep these at home anyway, so you can keep building your immune system. This is what you need to have at home, so if you're not in the hospital. Vitamin C, vitamin D3, and zinc. And also, you're going to need to be hydrating a lot. No, it's not that hydration itself, getting rid of COVID, but you're going to be thirsty a lot. And therefore, this hydrating a lot with these three meds are extraordinarily helpful. And you should probably just do it as part of regular protocol living at home anyway. But certainly make sure you have it if you actually do get COVID. Next slide. Who should get tested? Either you have certain symptoms or you have been exposed. Symptoms such as you have dry cough, you have fever, you have fatigue, overarching fatigue, you know, half the day you want to sleep. You have shortness of breath. You have loss of taste or loss of smell. You know, when you taste the curry goat or the oxtail and it usually tastes nice and you just don't taste like anything, you end up eating about quarter of the plate, you're likely to have been affected by COVID. So those are the symptoms. Or persons who have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. Now, the definition of exposed is a particular definition, right? What does exposed to COVID mean? You are in a room with somebody and you are not wearing a mask. You are less than 6 feet apart from the person. You were with the infected persons for longer than 15 minutes. So if you just pass in the hall, that's not considered exposure. But if you're sitting in a conference room, small conference room with each other, then that without the mask and not 6 feet apart, then you're exposed. And in that situation, you should get tested somewhere between 3 to 5 days after you've been exposed. So don't rush. Some people rush right away the first day, second day. Actually, those days are too early. You need to wait a little bit of time before you actually get tested. Somewhere between 3 to 5 days after you've been exposed to somebody who has COVID, and then go from there. Next. Yeah, the testing basics we talked about last week. 3 types of tests. There's the PCR test, the antigen test, and the antibody test. How the sample is taken for the PCR test and the antigen test, that's whether the nasal swab and stick that long Q-tips looking thing up your nose. Looks very uncomfortable. And then the antibody test is a finger stick or a blood draw. What it shows, the PCR test and the antigen test will show if you have an active COVID infection, while the antibody test shows if you've been infected in the past. So it's very, very different, and make sure the test that you need is the one that you actually want. The level of accuracy with the PCR test, it's highly accurate, and usually you don't need to repeat. It's not necessary to repeat the test. With the antigen test, it's mostly accurate, but sometimes you get a false positive. False positive means it tells you that you actually have COVID when you do not. So when you get a positive, you have to wait a few days, wait a week or so, and then retest again to confirm. And then the antibody test, often a second test is needed to confirm the results. But that's the basic thing in testing. So last week we talked about individual behavior and what you need to do as a person and so on. This week we're going to talk about the workplace. And specifically, We asked around as to which industries or companies have done very well in terms of protecting their workers and their customers. And we chose two examples, sort of a small business, we're talking to Home and Things, and a very large industry, the BPO, business processing industry. So we wanted to get both sides and to talk about what drove them to put the protocols in that they have in place, how did they implement it, how is it monitored, how is it effective, and so on. So really looking forward to this program. And anybody who's running a business, small or large, let's try and learn from each other as to how we're going to keep businesses safe. Remember, if we living with COVID requires that that we keep the protocols strong so that our businesses can operate. And remember, every week again, we have a memo, and this week we have some of the protocols around running a business. So every week we have a memo, and if you're not on the memo list, please email us at sme@psoj.org. That's SME, that's at psoj.org. And every week we send an email, a memo, actually that's relevant to the program that we are doing. So tonight we're talking about managing a business. So my first guest is Janice Anderson, and she's Human Resources Manager at Home and Things. And I gotta tell you how Home and Things came on my radar. I spoke to Novia McDonald-White from The Observer, and I said, Novia, as you have looked around in the retail industry, tell me some of the companies that you've seen put in very strong protocols and done very well. Without skipping a beat, she said Home and Things. So I said, we got to get them on. So Janice Bolton Anderson's mantra is life is service. She has a passion to serve. Her service has been explored as an entertainment coordinator at Sandals, in Ocho Rios in '93, and later she went to Plantation Inn Hotel and then also to the hotel manager at Palms Hotel in Negril. When she returned to Kingston, she wanted to restore the mission of service in the corporate workforce and started her own company, Team A, TEAMA, Training, Employment, Administrative Management Agency, where she offered training and coaching in customer service and middle management. Home and Things was one of her first customers, and after working with the team for a year, the directors offered her full-time position as the first HR manager of the company. So that's why they start as a consultant and then get big position at the company. Janice studied hotel and tourism management at the University of Commonwealth and has a professional trainer's certificate from Delaware State University. Please join me in welcoming Janice Bolton Anderson. Janice!
Hi, Nevada. I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. I'm so excited to have you on board. Before we start talking about the protocols, though, tell us a little bit about Home and Things, the company. What you guys sell, how many locations you have. Just give us some idea about who you are and what it is that you do.
All right. Well, Home and Things Limited is the leader in home finishes for your homes and offices. And finishes meaning anything that finishes your home, the doors, the windows, the kitchen faucet, and all of that. We have two locations. There's Constance Spring Road and there's Old Hope Road.
Okay. And you do tiles and you do
tiles. Yes, how could I forget? Tiles is our biggest seller. Yes, we are known in the market, especially for our tiles.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about how you guys have been doing in the sort of post-March, post-COVID environment. What's going on from a business perspective?
Oh, Nevada, I must tell you, we are so grateful and thankful to our loyal customers. We have been doing very well. Yes, we have been doing very well. The input from our staff, the extra effort in our staff, making sure that things are done properly and everybody follow these measures so that we can all remain healthy and keep our doors open. So I must give it up to our customers and our staff members.
Okay. Do you have an e-commerce website as well or not yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, not yet. So everything is just sort of still in person. And also, I think you had mentioned at one, but you have salespeople out there actually carrying.
Yes, we do. We have sales agents out in the field who go out in rural Jamaica and sell our business there. And then we do our deliveries island-wide.
Island-wide delivery. Okay, fantastic. Glad to hear that you're not only one of those that are surviving, but actually thriving in this period.
We are thriving.
Yes, we have to celebrate that. All right. Now we're going to talk about COVID and the protocols. When did it become an issue? When were you aware, not aware that COVID was happening, but when did you say, look, we're going to have to do something in this business with all of what's going on and to put in place in the work environment to make sure we can protect our employees and workers. When did this become a topic of conversation in the At Home and Things?
All right. We issued our first memorandum on
Yes.
COVID-19 on March 10th, 2020.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes.
And if you may recall, that was the exact day that the Ministry of Health had issued the release that we had our first case
Yes.
of the coronavirus in Jamaica.
Yes.
So once we heard that, we immediately sprung into action and sent out a memorandum informing our staff of the case of the COVID-19 case and, giving them little tips as to how we can safeguard ourselves from, contracting the disease.
What the memo was the memo then followed up with in-person meetings? Were people called? Were people how did you make the memo live?
Okay, the memo. All right. First of all, we don't just send out memorandums. Generally, whenever a memorandum is sent out, each team member has to sign that they have read and understood the contents of the memo.
Yes.
I also had meetings, and let me tell you something. From back then, we were and I say back then meaning March.
Yes, of course.
March of this year, we were practicing physical distancing from then. So what I did for the meetings, I had small groups. I met with small groups and informed them of the memo and informed them of, ways going forward. And also what I did was to meet with members of our team that may have comorbidities and, inform them further, listen to their concerns and all of that, and inform them, as to how we intend to keep the environment safe for everyone.
So one of the things I've heard you, just to be clear, and sometimes I'll repeat what you have said just to make sure people hear it. So not only do you just send the memo, you make sure they sign it and submit it back to Human Resources by declaring, I have read it and I have seen it. Then you are also practicing the behavior, because you could have had everybody in the same meeting now contradicting what you're actually saying. Instead, what you did, you had small meetings that were physically distant, so people saw that the company was serious. It wasn't just memo and talk, it was also the way you were beginning to conduct business.
That's correct.
Okay. That's correct. So what was in the memo? What kinds of, if you remember, what kinds of things, what were the protocols that were being developed at the time and sort of subsequently?
All right. Well, in that first memo, we advised persons of the wearing of the face mask, even in that first memo, physical distancing, and the hand sanitizing. That was paramount. We felt that was right, because if you remember, in the beginning, there was some ifs and buts about the wearing of the mask, whether it made sense, yes or no. But always the hand sanitizing was paramount. So that is what we concentrated on. So that was basically what was in the memo.
Yes. How were you, when did you do the first communication with the customers that you were changing protocols and what was required to come into the store and so on? When did that start to take shape?
That started to take shape maybe 2 days after, a day or two after, where we decided, because what happened then, we had to get our sanitizers and all of these things. The thermometer came a little later, but we had to get our sanitizer. And at that time, it was very difficult to get the sanitizer. However, our directors worked their magic and we got those in real quick. And so we started informing our customers that, listen, once you come in, we're going to ask that you wear a face mask and start and do your sanitization of the hand.
So how you did? You sent an email to customers that you had a list? Did you send a text? You had signage in the store itself? What were the ways in which you were communicating with customers?
In the beginning, we had signage in the store, and once persons come in, then they were informed at the door of our protocols.
By the security or somebody
was at the door, our team member at the door. And then later on, we followed up with WhatsApp messages and our social media platforms and, emails to the customers who we have emails for.
Yes. So what was it then that now you have 2 locations? How did you get the message across to both locations? And how are you monitoring that, in fact, if our customers aren't coming in without the mask, and how is that part managed?
All right. Well, first of all, let me stop you there because we didn't have a lot of customers coming in without
Actually,
masks. They couldn't come in without the mask.
okay,
Right.
yes.
We were very vigilant. We're very vigilant on that. But
So when
we
someone comes in, lad, you with mask at home, I just want to buy something quick. What they say?
our team members respectfully
Yes.
advise them of our protocols and let them know that we're happy to have you, but we are unable to let you in. We have masks here for sale. So if
Okay.
they wish to, then they can buy the
And
mask.
purchase. Okay,
Yes.
that's a very good addition. So I can't tell you that I forget my mask, because by the way, say a mask here, pay me the money. That's right.
Exactly.
Understood. Okay.
And so apart from that, we would do random walkthroughs. So
In both
myself,
stores.
in both
Mm,
stores. So myself, along with my assistant Rashida, would do
yes.
walkthroughs just to make sure that things are, the protocols are being followed. And
Yes.
from time to time, even the directors themselves would come in and do walkthroughs just to make sure that, we're following all the protocols that need to be
Hmm.
followed. So yes, that's how we actually monitored it.
Yes.
Um, Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. As it relates to even our customers,
Hmm.
we monitor them also on our CCTV, and yes, we do pay attention to that. And once we see something that is
Uh,
not somebody who's not following the protocol, a quick call
yes.
is placed to the sales floor or to the warehouse and say, listen, you need to speak to this customer, remind them to
Yes.
put the mask up, or physical distancing.
Yes. Let me ask you this. So, what did you have any customers who kind of objected? I know we don't have the madness, some of the madness that we see in the United States, where people are fight,
Mhm.
um, fight the store. But
Right.
did you have anybody who kind of said, "No, man, I can't do this. I have asthma, I have this, whatever"? Did that occur, or for the most part, were people pretty respectful?
It did, but for the most part, our customers were respectful and appreciative of what we're doing to keep them safe.
Yes. Yes. Understood. Did
One of
you?
the problems one of the problems we had was persons refusing to be for their temperature to be tested by their forehead.
Yes.
But because what we had done was we had done our research on our thermometer,
Hmm.
and the manufacturer's report, information says that it's a forehead thermometer and it must be taken from the forehead.
Okay.
So, right. So we were, that's what we had
Vigilant.
enforced, and we
Hmm.
were vigilant with it. But, what we did was we went back and we did some research and we adjusted our measures just to make sure that everybody is comfortable with what we're doing, but
Hmm.
also bearing in mind that we're keeping everybody safe. So we never
So,
lost sight of that.
were you able to switch the thermometer to the hand? Is that what you ended up doing?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And you
We
found
did.
that in the research that worked as well, that you
It
were
did.
able to, that
Yes,
is a reasonable test as well. What has
yes.
been the most challenging part of implementing and monitoring the protocols in the business?
All right. Challenging as it relates to my team members. Home and
Hmm.
Things is very big on social engagement for our team members,
Yes.
as in our training that we
How
do.
many people work there, by the way? How big is the?
Presently, we have approximately 95 team
Yeah.
members.
Okay. Hmm.
Right. And so we're very big on these social engagements. For example, we have training sessions every 3 months. We
Wow.
have our birthday club parties. We have our, outings and karaoke nights and all of that. So keeping our staff motivated
Hmm.
I, has been very challenging, because we're not able to offer them these outlets that
Yes,
we
of
used
course.
to.
Okay.
Um,
How have you gotten around that? What are kind of some of the things that you're doing now?
Well, what we do now, we do bonuses,
Yes.
and just little talks here and there. Have them come into my office and we will sit and chat for a little, or we go down on the floor and we chat with them out for a little because there's little that we can do now. You know,
Yes.
our
Yes.
training sessions we still do, but it takes a little longer because we can only accommodate so much in our training room.
Let
Right.
me ask you about how your remit is human resources, and I'm curious how your function, how your job has changed since COVID. What were you doing before, and what has dramatically changed in your job now, if anything?
Not much has changed. Like I said, thankfully we have been able to because of our stringent measures that we've been vigilant with. We don't let our guard down.
Yes,
Not
yes.
much has changed. We still operate the same way we used to.
But let me ask you this, because you said, it didn't let you go. Because what I have found is
Yeah.
that in March and April, some people put the protocols in. They kind of were
Mhm.
stringent then. And
Right.
then by about June, boy, everybody tired, yeah, but then you start to see the little drop off, drop off. Who is it that who in the company is holding that line? Where's that? Where's that like? No, no, no. We're going to be consistently vigilant.
Well, myself, along with my managers and
Yes.
supervisors, and we make sure that
Hmm.
there's no room for letting our guard down. And
Yes. Yes.
let me tell you something, Nevada. For the most part, and that's why I say I really have to big up my team members. For the most part, we don't have problems with persons not
Hmm.
wanting to wear the mask or complaining about. We don't have that problem. We don't.
Yes. Yes. No, that's excellent. That's really excellent. What about the discussion on HR issues with respect to if you have somebody at home that got infected, all that whole discussion? What has been the nature of that discussion around potential infections, either at the store or because whoever you live with potentially infected?
Okay. Well, a memorandum was sent out about that too, where
Hmm.
we advise persons, listen, if you have persons coming from overseas, yes, I know you want the little things out of the barrel or out of the suitcase, but just give them some time. You let them
Yes.
complete
Quarantine. Yes.
the quarantine, thank you. And then you can see them afterwards.
Yes.
So
Yes.
all along we've been following through with our memorandums. Memorandums go out about COVID like
Yes.
twice per month.
Wow.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
like twice per
So
month. Mhm.
so once you have defined the protocols, what are the additional memorandums like? What are the additional things that have gone out? Oh,
Updates on COVID and
yes.
as the protocols change, because in the beginning it was one thing, and then as soon as we start understanding this virus a little more, whatever
Hmm.
changes, then the memorandums are sent out.
Okay. So how is it that the customers interact in the aisles and so on? What's sort of happening when I come into the store and I understand my temperature has been checked, I get sanitized, you insist that I need to be wearing a mask. If I'm not wearing a mask, you're going to say that I'm going to buy one. What's the protocol sort of as I walk around the store? What am I looking for? What am I seeing?
All right, Nevada. Well, if you haven't been to one of our stores or any of our
Hmm.
stores, you need to come down.
Hmm.
Our
Hmm.
showroom is our showrooms are big, so
Right.
we can accommodate, yes, comfortably. We can
Yes.
accommodate our customers. Our sales reps, in one of the memos that was sent out, we say to them, even though you're maintaining your physical distance, please remember to
Hmm.
be respectful and
Yes.
tactful in how you deal with your customers. So
Hmm.
we have little challenges there as it relates to space, because in sales you want to be more personal, and
Yes.
but now
Yes.
everything has changed. But everybody now understands what is happening, and so everybody just go along with our protocols.
Okay, okay. So you had said we got a question here from Jana Patterson. How hard is it to get your staff members to commit to adhering to the protocols? But really, based on what you've said, that has not necessarily been that's not been an issue. And it's sort of 95 people is a sizable amount of
It
people.
is.
So
It is.
getting behavioral thing. Um,
Mhm.
what can we learn? Because I tell you what, and you hear the frustration with the government, right?
Yes,
It appears that we know what we are supposed to do
that's
as
right.
Jamaicans,
Hmm.
but we are not doing it in sufficient numbers.
Right.
You have any thoughts that maybe project to the government or the private sector, etc., for how one can get the behavioral change?
Hmm.
Because the knowledge certainly is out there. What might we be doing that we are not doing to help ensure that we have broad based understanding of the not understanding but adoption of the protocols?
Well, first of all, Nevada, each person has to be willing to make that change.
Yes.
We have to start one person at a time, one company at a time. As with home and things, our staff, we tell them, even if we see you on the road without a
Wow.
mask, we are
Yes.
going to have a problem with that.
Okay.
When you're home,
Yes.
we remind them. I say we tell them you have children at home. You may have
Yes.
your mother or your father, persons with comorbidities at home. So you want to be safe. We
Yes.
make them understand that this is not just about you. This is about your loved ones. So I
Yes.
think the change
Absolutely.
needs to take place as individuals first and foremost, and then each organization be vigilant with it.
Yes.
Don't let your guard down.
Okay.
Make persons know that you're going to be held accountable.
Accountable.
Yes,
Accountability, that is a key.
that's right.
Accountability is key.
Yes,
So
yes.
we're running some polls also during the program, and one of the first questions we asked was, are there measures in place for physical distancing 6 feet apart at your workplace? 78% said yes,
Mhm.
22% said no. I have to say that I'm surprised that it's as high as that. Very happy, very proud,
Yeah.
but that 78% of the people have actually gone in and made some made
Mhm.
sure that the workers are there.
Right.
Talk a little bit more about small businesses
Mhm.
and with the protocols, but also just business in general post COVID,
Mhm.
based on in the position that you see as a senior manager in the
Mhm.
human resources. What are the kinds of things that you think small businesses should know or should be aware of?
Small businesses should be, well, everybody should by now be aware of the impact that COVID is having
Hmm.
on the world. And we should all, bear in mind that if we all don't play our parts, then this is
Yes,
not going, well, first of all, this is not going anywhere anytime soon. So if
yes,
we don't play
absolutely.
our part, or the part that, for each organization, each individual,
Hmm.
then what is going to happen is we're going to start shutting down businesses. Nobody
Yes,
wants that. We don't want that, right? So persons need to be aware that, listen, as I said before, we have a part to play, and we must hold our employees accountable. We must hold our customers accountable. Let them know, listen, if you can't wear your mask, or if you refuse to wear your mask, listen, you can't shop with us. We will love having you here. We want you
yes.
here, but we
Mhm.
have to make everybody else safe.
What about shifting gears for a second, just business skills in general? Have you
Mhm.
guys had to access new types of training, new types of business skills in this time outside of protocols? Has something about in terms of how you operate your business from the perspective of business training or business skills, anything of that, has that changed in any way?
No, we have, all right, our training sessions
Hmm.
happen every 3 months.
Okay.
A
And who
training,
comes? The whole staff?
even the directors,
Okay.
even the
Hmm.
directors will take part in the training. We do customer service training, we do sales training, product knowledge training,
Yes, yes.
and then we do coaching for the supervisors and the managers. So we have been doing that. I mean, it's consistent with us. It has been happening every 3 months
Okay.
religiously.
So
So
that
we
has
have
and
not
that
had
hasn't changed.
any. No, that it hasn't.
Okay, okay.
The only thing
Excellent.
that has changed is that it takes a little more time to get
Because
it
you're
done
breaking them
for
to small
everybody.
groups.
Exactly.
Okay. That makes sense, actually. Thank you so much. This was excellent. To give Janice, you gave us a good perspective of what a small business can do in this time. Uh, Big up to you that you're able to not only sending out memos, but also
Mhm.
getting the enforcement both from employees and from customers. And
Mhm.
this is you're an example of the kind of
Yeah.
thing that we need to be doing to ensure, we are going into Christmas now,
Right.
and we are seeing community
Mhm.
spread, and the issue is, how are we going to keep businesses open and ensure that we still keep safe? And that
Right.
is going to be the line that we're going to have to draw. So the example
Mhm.
of home and things and so on is really, really crucial for us to absorb, to be able to make sure that we survive and in
Yeah.
fact even thrive, as you have,
Right.
through this period.
You
Any
know,
last word?
yes,
Mhm.
one of the things I forgot to mention is we have our office attendants who go around every 15 minutes and sanitize the hands of everybody in store, even in the administrative offices. That is
Ah,
one thing that we make sure that is done.
Excellent.
But before I go, I just want to say thank you for having me on the program. I want to say thank you and big ups to my team members and our customers, our loyal customers. We couldn't have done it without them.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Janice. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're most welcome.
Boy, a lot to learn. Home and Things, right? They put the protocols in early. They enforce. They monitor. They have someone go around, and every 15 minutes, people's hands are being sanitized and so on. A lot to learn. The main thing I want you guys to realize is vigilance. That's what we're hearing from them. Vigilance meaning consistency from March through now, and also accountability, holding each other to account. And anybody with excuse, this, that, don't matter. We are trying to run our business here, and we're trying to keep our customers and our employees safe. So really, really congratulations to Home and Things. And if you're looking for a place to shop that you can shop and feel safe, certainly Home and Things would be one of the places that you should and would go to. So now we're going to shift gears to a much bigger industry. We're going to be talking to Gloria Henry, who's the president of the Global Services Association. Gloria Henry has over 2 decades of experience in many areas of business, including administration, public sector management, banking, corporate service, strategic leadership, customer relationship management, and property management. Yes, what a whole heap of expertise. Fabulous. She was elected president of the Business Process Industry Association of Jamaica in June 2017, and is currently serving in that position for a 3rd consecutive term. Now, if you have people vote you back and back again, it means that you're competent and they want you to see you running the organization. She holds an executive master's in business administration and a Bachelor of Science in management. She's currently employed by the Port Authority of Jamaica, PAJ, as Assistant Vice President in charge of the Montego Bay Free Zone Company. Over the last decade, Gloria has spearheaded the transition of the Free Zone from a manufacturing industrial estate into an ICT-focused enclave supporting business process outsourcing industry. Gloria has also served many public, private, and civic organizations, including the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce, where she served as president for the period 2015 to 2017. Busy woman. She's also served on several boards, including the Private Sector Organization Executive Council. Welcome, welcome, Gloria. How are you?
Thank you. I am great. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. And I appreciate your coming in because I heard that today was your AGM. So yes, I hope you're not too exhausted.
Not at all. I have more work on my plate because I have been elected to continue to serve for a 4th term. So.
Congratulations. Congratulations. And you're happy about that for sure, right? Especially this time.
Not the more work, but certainly to continue with what we have been doing over the past few months since the onset of the COVID pandemic.
Yes, absolutely. So, Gloria, interestingly, your industry was one of the first that were affected and was a news story and so on. And in fact, that was when I know you know the rest of my family, Keith Duncan and Sheldon Poe, but that was the first I'd heard of you because everyone said you kind of just jumped in and started to organize to try and get things done. So what I want you to do is just walk us back to that time around the news coming and it's not great, and how you then wrapped your mind around, look, I'm not letting this industry go down. So let's talk a little bit about how that thinking came about.
Well, to be truthful, what is not out there is that we were proactive as an industry association. So we had our guidelines developed from the 2nd of March, even before COVID came. And we had it tested, looking through different contact centers and seeing what they were doing. And we tried to get the Ministry of Health involved, but they didn't get involved until, of course, COVID was on island.
Much later.
And
Gloria, before you go on, what made you say, no, we have to get our act together now? Early March, when nobody else taking it seriously, foreign things, China things, not about Jamaica. What made you say, boy, no, we need to get on top of this?
Well, we're a people business. We always position ourselves as a people business, people intensive, 43,000 persons work in our contact centers. So we figure that if this was going to come and if it was going to impact, there is a likelihood that it would impact our businesses. And so we knew that our businesses were always resilient and proactive and that they had their various business continuity strategies.
Yes.
But we knew that as an association, we needed to bring everybody together so that we could collaborate and find the best fit. This is a new pandemic. There was really nothing out there, nothing to benchmark really.
Yes.
And so we had to look at what the World Health Organization was recommending and look at what we did on a daily basis, because the truth is that health and wellness has always been a part of our daily routine. So companies are always cleaning, they're always sanitizing. We have persons with asthmatic conditions and other respiratory conditions that work in our contact centers. So that is why we felt that we needed to put a set of guidelines together that could be universally implemented across the different centers in Jamaica.
Did you look at BPOs in other countries to sort of get ideas as to what was successful implementation? Was that one of the things that you researched?
I was trying to find what was happening in Asia, and we have members who have contact centers in the Philippines and in India and other places. So we were able to draw from them. In fact, some of them started wearing masks long before we as an association mandated mask wearing. So we were able to get the best of the different strategies that were being implemented across different centers in different parts of the world, from our friends in Latin America, from our friends in Asia, from our friends in North America. And we were able to bring all of that together in a set of guidelines that we then invited the Ministry of Health to come in and to review. And they were quite impressed when they saw what we had. We had a meeting on the 24th of March. And we adopted those guidelines. The truth, though, is that not all centers in Jamaica were part of our association, and still isn't all centers part. So
how many are under your umbrella, and then how many are outside? How many centers?
So we have about 90 something GSS firms in Jamaica. And we represent 60 something of those.
Okay. And what is like the biggest one or like the smallest one? Just let's give us some number of people.
So the biggest firm employs over 6,000 employees.
Wow. Okay.
And yes, we have companies 5,000 plus, 4,000 plus, 3,000, 2,000, and we have smaller firms that are 500 and 100 and under. So we have different categories, but we represent. Our membership represents 80 plus % of the work.
Of the number of people.
The work.
All right. So let's talk about then the protocols that you did put in place after you did your research and said we've got to get on top of this. What were some of the things, both in terms of protocols of behavior and then also the physical layouts of the space? What were some of the things that were critical?
Sanitizing was the first one that we put in place, in terms of sanitizing of persons and sanitizing of equipment. Then there was a social distancing. We recommended the 6 feet apart, and that meant that the companies had to seat every other person. We also recommended work at home, and before that we had written to the same time we developed our protocols, we wrote to the Ministry of Finance to ask them to support us by granting us a bond waiver to allow the firms to move the computers out of the special economic zones to allow the workers to work at home. I mean, that took some time.
No, I can imagine. Yes, 2 things I want to ask you, Gloria. First of all, when you switched from the people working right next to each other to every other person, I've got to believe that impacted the cost structure, because suddenly you have half the number of people in the same space. So how were you able to make that trade-off between?
That not just impacted the cost structure. There was some resistance as well. I mean, I'm not going to make it seem as if everything was easy. There was some resistance. There were some firms asking, why are you suggesting this? whose recommendation is this? Why are you pushing us to do this? And so we had to, we have a group of all the CEOs, or all the country reps, country leaders rather, in peer groups. So we were able to have peer pressure bear on those who were resisting and bringing everybody together. And I must say, for the most part, good sense prevailed and everybody realized it was for the best interest. Then we actually put some teeth into it by going to the government and asking for it to be enshrined in the Disaster Risk Management Act.
Wow.
When that happened, then everybody, whether they were members of the association or not, were forced to adopt.
So you helped to navigate and bring in the strong arm of the law to make sure that you were able to get compliance.
Absolutely.
Work at home in your industry, right? Because I know we again outside the industry, but we know of some of the difficulties in terms of maintaining the security of the information. How were you able to have a work at home policy, have some people working at home, given the fact that you are so stringent about the privacy and security of people's information?
Well, quite frankly, not all work could be deployed in work at home modality.
Okay.
So there were some that had to stay in the office or in the sites. The workers themselves had to meet certain basic criteria in terms of their privacy in their home. They need to have a private room, the connectivity, the power, of course, power requirements. Then the company had to whitelist them, meaning they had to meet certain security criteria to be able to work at home. The equipment was designed so that there would be a VPN to connect remotely, so that the companies can have some level of control over the privacy and some level of surveillance and if possible, the ability to intervene if there's a need to do so.
Understood. Let me ask you this. What has happened to the industry in terms of amount of business? Are we seeing it growing, shrinking, about the same since March in terms of, As
you know, we had a temporary lockdown on April 22nd to May 7th. And during that period, we did suffer significant losses during that period.
What did your clients do? They just took it to other countries at the time? How did they manage?
Actually, the first thing, as I said, we were proactive. One of the things that we recommended and requested was for the sector to be designated essential services. And so there are some contracts that are large scale: logistics, healthcare, security, telecommunications, that were designated essential services. And those were allowed to continue. Some companies moved their workers into hotels. So they rented, like one company rented Holiday Inn and hotels in Kingston, and they moved them into those remote locations so they could continue to function and serve their customers. Of course, some had to redeploy different services to other centers that they have elsewhere. So during that period, we lost about $45 million. And we overall, up to end of June, we had seen a 24% decline, but it's picking back up. So at August, it was about 11% in terms of number of employees. But you may have seen in the news that new sites are opening. IBEX opened in Ocho Rios. Centerfield just opened a new site in Kingston. And there are other sites that are expanding in different communities now. So we're seeing a rebound. Many of the persons who were laid off, 7,000 employees were laid off during the lockdown. Most of them are going back to work, if not all. By the end of the year, nearly all of them will be back at work.
Okay. So for the industry, 43,000, that's a lot of people, right? Working in the industry, 43,000. And I want to talk to you about how, apart from the legal stuff that you did, which came down on the firms, how you able to get the behavioral change across so many. And the reason I ask is it's critical because you hear the frustration in the government with people know what they're supposed to do. We all know what we're supposed to do. There's been enough information out there vis-a-vis the mask, the physical distancing, the sanitizing. we're in the middle of a community spread, and yet not enough of us are changing the behavior. What can you tell us about behavioral change that maybe we should be applying more nationally?
Well, the truth is the companies, it has been a struggle, I must say, for everybody to get the general population to understand and to change their behavior. The companies, many of them have been using the carrot and stick. So they put enforcement strategies in place, enforcement measures, and it is monitored daily. There are some things that are done every day. So the companies themselves, they have to self-report every single day. Right.
Okay. To your association.
They send it to us as well as to the Special Economic Zone Authority and the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. And that information is then passed on to the Ministry of Health, so that if there's any kind of danger that is perceived, they can intervene immediately to mitigate. Then so on the company side, it's a daily reporting. And of course, there are actions under the DRMA if they do not comply. There are regular checks, random checks by the Ministry of Health. They have a health certificate that must be in place for them to continue to operate. And if they lose that, then the sites are closed down immediately. Wow. So the companies, there are legal implications for them, not if they don't meet follow the guidelines. So they're required to temperature check, they're required to have isolation rooms, they're required to clean, there are cleaning regimens in place, there are equipment use protocols in place, there are protocols for the air condition and air circulation and transportation, all of the services from the company's security to the transportation vendors, to the cleaning vendors, to the food services vendors. Everybody have a set of protocols.
So looking at you guys looked at the entire chain of activity in the industry and made sure. So let's just talk about what is it about the air conditioning? What had to be done? What's the air conditioning protocols then?
It's a servicing requirement. Different air handling systems. So whether it's a system or it is the package system, the central air system. And then there are requirements in terms of the types of filters that they're to use. And there are requirements for fresh air intake as well.
Okay.
So all of those have to be met, and the service schedule must be made available to the public health inspectors upon their inspection.
And then transportation, how do you manage that? People don't just come to work, whatever bus them take.
Many of the companies provide private transportation for the workers, especially in Montego Bay. So those contract transportation vendors now have to meet those requirements in terms of sanitizing the buses, in terms of the seating requirements in the buses, and in terms of the ventilation. So
in the buses, you make sure that people aren't bunch up. That's one of the
an empty seat beside each, one empty seat beside each.
Beside each person.
And no standing passenger.
Yes. Gloria, has all of this increased the basic cost structure? I hear you growing, but is the business less profitable because of all of this?
It has increased significantly for some companies with larger population, of course. I saw last month, one company shared with me that they have spent over $248 million already just on keeping persons safe. And they have a little over 3,000 employees. So
let me ask you this. Are you able to pass on the cost of this in terms of the pricing of the service?
In some respect, but a lot of it has to be borne by the companies themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of rejiggering that has to go on and has been happening.
But Jamaica is a preferred location, and we have very good partnerships. I mean, we have done very well relatively when you look at how the kinds of support that we have got from the government and from the agencies of government. Everybody have come together quite cooperatively to support this sector, and we understand the importance. This is perhaps at one point it was the only foreign exchange earning, activity going on. Well, remittances was
remittances, and yes, of course,
right.
of course. So the critical lifeline. Gloria, in this region, who's next after us in terms of the BPO industry? Which country has sort of as big as our BPO here?
The Dominican Republic. Dominican Republic is relatively large.
That's Spanish only, or they do English as well?
They do some English, but they do a significant amount of Spanish.
Okay. But we are the largest in terms of English speaking?
English speaking, we are definitely the largest.
Okay. We're doing up some polls that was said. So does your workplace have a work at home policy for employees? 40% said yes, and 60% said no. So the hope is that over time, there may be more and more opportunities for work at home policies. How often do you disinfect your personal workstation, or is your personal workstation disinfected? 66% said daily, which is interesting. 17% said weekly, and another 17% said rarely or never. What's the requirement within the BPO in terms of when a desk area is sanitized?
So they have to sanitize for each shift.
Okay.
They have to sanitize. The workers themselves can self-sanitize too. So they're given their sanitizing material, so they too can sanitize. And each time they go out, they have to sanitize themselves going back in. When they come in the mornings, they have to sanitize. When they take a break, they have to sanitize.
Okay. What's the protocol if somebody comes in and you suspect or they suspect that they actually have COVID? What's the what if scenario? What happens?
All right, I'm going to take off my glasses for this one.
Sure.
The temperature is taken as soon as you arrive.
Yes.
At the site. Your temperature is taken and recorded. You are allowed to self-report. In some companies, they self-report daily. In other companies, they do it weekly. So if you have relatives that are in quarantine that have traveled, if you're reporting persons in your household that is sick, that has come in contact with anyone with the COVID virus, all of those things are taken into consideration, and usually those persons are allowed to work at home. But if you show up and you're showing signs of any of the flu-like symptoms or any COVID-like symptom, then there's an isolation room that you are immediately taken to, and the Ministry of Health.
Everybody has to have an isolation room. That's part of the requirement.
Have an isolation room. So it is a mandated requirement for all centers.
Even if I'm a small BPO with only 50 people,
even if it's 10 people you must have an isolation room. It's a requirement.
Yes.
And that isolation room must be equipped with certain basic things as well. So you can self-help whilst waiting for attention.
Okay. And then what happens? So I get so I can either self-report or the temperature check, and I get put into the isolation room. And then what happens?
The Ministry of Health is contacted for direction. So they will interview the person to find out, if there is what level of action is necessary. Should this person go to the hospital? Should they go to a private doctor? Or should they go home?
Okay. What is the outlook for the BPO industry? You started to mention that you're starting to see growth again. You had a little flattening earlier in the year. What you're seeing as the future? 2021, projecting to the March 2021. What are you seeing? And why?
Is looking good, I would say. So far for this year, we had some new investments that were in the pipeline, and we have managed to convert all of those. So we have 2 new firms that started since September, and we have another 2. One is looking to start in December, and the other one to start first quarter of next year. Next calendar year.
Local firms or firms that have come from abroad to invest here?
Investors coming, foreign direct investments.
Okay. In the industry now, is it mostly foreign direct investment, or is it mostly Jamaicans that own these companies?
It's mostly foreign direct investments. And what we're seeing as well is an increase in SMEs in Jamaica. Jamaican entrepreneurs who are getting in the sector, who are starting their own businesses. And we have a platform called Outsource to Jamaica, where we showcase Jamaica to, of course, the United States and other countries that are looking to outsource. And we position some of these firms that are ready for business and connect them with influencers within the outsourcing spaces. So we are looking to put on that event again in 2021. Yes. And some of these small firms that are now, starting, we're hoping that we'll be able to help them to position themselves and to be connected in the global space.
Understood. Gloria, I answer your question, an industry question, not so much to do with COVID now. Why is it that you think we have more foreign direct investment than local investors investing? Because it doesn't seem like it's advanced technologically or something that we need foreigner to do. Yet the industry is still configured in a way that it's mostly foreign direct investment. Why? How we ended up like this?
Well, truthfully, it takes quite a bit of capital to get started. One, it requires knowledge, some kind of knowledge, whether it is in the persons that you're employing or the persons that are going to run and operate the business. So those are usually some of the impediments. But we have broken that barrier to entry by setting up an incubator. So the JCJ has a 220-seat incubator in Montego Bay, and we're looking to expand that into Kingston. In fact, if it wasn't for COVID, we would now be operating our incubator in Kingston in Gardentown.
So talk to me about incubator. What that mean? How it works?
Everything for you except, of course, the people. So it's a turnkey facility. It has the furniture, the telecoms, the hosted PBX services, everything pretty much in place. And
so if I wanted to start like a 10-person BPO, I could just come there. I wouldn't have to do the initial investment. So if I find 10 people that I'm doing, and then I can just kind of pay you per a fee or a rental or some such thing.
You pay per seat per hour in the incubator. So
has there been a lot of take up with that?
No. The model that we have now, you can't start with less than 25 seats, but we are going to be rolling out another model that allows for smaller firms with less than 25 seats to start. And persons have we have extended some flexibility in accommodating firms, because we have persons who have started with less than 25 and have grown significantly. Many of the firms that you see out there now, they started in the incubator. Since we started in 2015, we've had 9 firms going through that, being facilitated within the incubator.
Okay. Gloria, shifting gears again now, we hear a lot about artificial intelligence. And one of the things that people talk about that artificial intelligence will be able to do cheaper, faster, whatever, is take over customer service calls. Are you concerned? Is this a real issue? Or am I reading too many advanced business books that you don't see that coming anytime soon?
Well, to be honest with you, the adoption rate for artificial intelligence has increased significantly since COVID-19, of course. As you can well imagine, many of the persons have accelerated their plans to, digitize, to move towards more technology-enabled services. And we have been preparing for the use of technology and acceleration of technology to support the growth of our industry. We recognize that many of the transactional tasks that can be handled by robotic process automation and artificial intelligence, that many of those will transition to those modalities. But what we have been doing and preparing ourselves is really to scale up the value chain and to increase and improve our talent base in Jamaica. And which is why the Global Services Skills Project was launched a year ago, and this is doing exactly that. It is training and upskilling our labor force to prepare for higher value services. What are some of the
skills that we are higher up the chain? What's some of the training that we're doing to increase the value of what we're offering?
Even within business process outsourcing, the communication methodologies have changed to more complex, where you find that people are handling greater levels of customer support services using multiple channels. So not just, but they're interfacing with different types of different channels. They're using chats, they're using voice, they're using they're getting aids from robots. They're also using virtual reality to support customer services. We are looking at finance and accounting as well as another area of services that we have a learning curve, an established learning curve in Jamaica, and that can escalate. Legal process outsourcing, we do quite a bit of legal process outsourcing in Jamaica. There's room for a lot of that. In the healthcare, we are looking at telemedicine. And telemedicine has, great potential for Jamaican nurses, Jamaican health professionals, medical billing. That's something that a few firms are doing, where we can grow. IT outsourcing, of course, mobile applications development. We have started to do that and are doing quite a bit of that. Data analytics, marketing analytics. Those are some of the areas that we are looking to.
So excellent. Wow.
With STEM skills, that we can train and help to grow in this industry.
Excellent. No, this has been amazing in terms of very, very explosive. I have a last poll that says, how often do you disinfect your phone? Daily 50%, weekly 0%, rarely or never. So we seem to have two extremes, right? Is disinfecting there's a disinfecting of the ear to mouth equipment, or does everybody have their own? How does that work?
Everybody is to have their own headset. If you are not having, then that is a breach of our protocols.
Okay. And do I take it home and bring it back to work every time, or leave it there?
Everybody has a locker, a private locker space, and they can lock their headset in that space without interference from anyone else.
Got you. Gloria, thank you so much for coming. I want to give you the opportunity to maybe say something that you didn't say, even a word of advice to other businesses out there, especially businesses that are dealing with a lot of people. What do we need to know that you may not have mentioned yet? Or what advice do you have? Yes.
Getting out of the blocks quickly really helped. Having that collaboration and that support and good relationships with the members. Transparency, of course, in terms of what we're doing and what we're sharing with our members. I must also say that Jamaica has really done very well. Montego Bay Free Zone this year won 3 FDI awards. One for employee wellness, one for site conversion, and another for BPO. And that really underscores, the level of growth and development that we have invested in as a country over the years in this sector. I want to say that we are looking forward to our growth of the value chain and to realizing 50,000 employees by end of next year, and to move towards $1 billion US dollars in earnings within the global services sector.
It's so good, because it's so rare to be hearing some good news. And obviously part of it is because the protocols you put in place, it allowed the thing to continue to grow, because had you not been stringent and got in early, you could have been dealing with a mass health crisis in an industry and all kinds of problems afterwards. So Gloria, congratulations to you, quite seriously. And thank you for taking a proactive stance, for teaching us what it means to sort of plan ahead and know what we have to do. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you very much too. And I also want to thank my members for their continued support and for, the kinds of investment that they continue to make in the people that they employ, and demonstrating through their own tangible actions that they really put people first. So thank you so much, and thanks to them as well.
Excellent. From Michelle Nita, this lady's on top of her game. Kudos to her. Great leadership of an industry. So congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we did small and we did large. And here are some of the key takeaways in terms of managing for safety for your employees and for your customer. Proactive. No matter wait, right? Remember, Gloria told us that she got her protocols in place before the Ministry of Health. You see how people can proactive and see ahead. Now wait on anybody else to tell them nothing. Them see the danger and say, yes, we have to make sure when you are managing an industry of 43,000 people, you cannot afford a health crisis, right? Proactive, monitoring, accountability, education, enforcing, critical to why the BPO industry is able to survive and now thrive. And Gloria Henry saying, look like it's going to grow next year, right? In the middle of COVID. We're a growing industry, right? We talked earlier with Home and Things, smaller company, 95 people. Again, what we heard from Janice, proactive, accountable, no excuse from nobody, but if you forget my mask at home. No, you forget your mask at home, buy the mask, right? We're going to make sure that we keep a certain standard. Again, COVID is not a joke. It's not a joke. So we have to hold ourselves and each other accountable when we are in business, or we are customers of business or employees of business. So if you're working at a place where you don't see any protocols, make sure you talk to the manager. If you're a customer and you're going to a store that you don't see them appropriately managing the situation, walk out and tell them, no, I'm not shopping here. Let them know that we need to start protecting each other. It was a really great program. I learned a lot, similar to last week. And the real thing now is, remember, we are now living with COVID, managing with COVID. Yes, we heard some news from Pfizer that there is a vaccine on the way, but that's not coming next week. And by the time them get to figure out all the Europeans and Americans and everybody else to get vaccine, and then they come to Jamaica, we are going to have to figure out how to live with this before vaccine come. So thank you for joining us. Rochelle will be back next week. Appreciate everybody here. We're going to go out again with, please check out our website, smallbusinessportal.com, smallbusinessportal.com, where we leave old programs and memos from COVIDcast, as well as lessons around various things that you need to know as a small business. Be proactive. Make sure COVID doesn't end without you not becoming a better business person. Smallbusinessportal.com is one of the places and sources of information in terms of grants, loans, business tips, business services. And if you're a trainer or business service person that's not listed on the website, please email us at sme@psoj.org, sme@psoj.org, and we'll get you signed on. Very good. Thanks a lot for joining on again, a very special program about COVID, managing COVID, living with COVID. And Rochelle will be back next week.
So you have a great idea to start a business, but you don't know where to start. We completely understand. You have a lot of questions and almost no answers. Smallbusinessportal.com is here to help. At smallbusinessportal.com, you gain access to information on loans, grants, and investment opportunities from verified financial institutions. Guess what you also get? Useful business tips, access to training. All these services combine to make your business idea into a reality. Start your journey today at smallbusinessportal.com.